So we will discuss the workbook questions based on daffodils. So you can open your workbook, poem workbooks, and we will have a discussion on the question answers that are given in your workbook. Yes, Harshita, you can ask your question.
Ma'am, extract second question number second. Briefly describe the musical quality of the extract.
Extract second.
Yes, ma'am.
Extract second, question 2 doesn't have this question. It is question 5th in my book. All right, briefly describe the musical quality of the extract. Right. So extract 2 has this third stanza where, second stanza where the poet compares the daffodils with the stars that shine in the Milky Way. Right. So you have to talk about the musical quality, means you have to talk about the rhyming pattern, right? The rhyming scheme. So this extract, like the other extracts, has a rhyming pattern, that is A, B, A, B, C, C. You will write it in just the way it has been given in your workbook with the commas in small alphabets, right? So you can then elaborate this by saying that the poet uses the rhyming words, that is shine and line, to rhyme the first and the third lines. Then he uses the rhyming words way and bay to rhyme the second line with the fourth line. And then he ends the stanza with a rhyming couplet that uses the rhyming words glance and dance, right? So this is how, which ends with these two lines also rhyme with each other. This is how you will talk about. You have to elaborate it because the question just talks about the musical quality of this particular extract. So you will elaborate it in this way.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Mentioning the rhyming words and mentioning the lines which they rhyme. Right. Okay. Yes, Memansha.
Ma'am, my one question was that Harshita asked, and the other question is, ma'am, extract one, question number 4.
All right. Discuss the importance of the following lines with reference to the poem beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Right. So the importance is obviously he is describing the daffodils, right? So he wants to say that they were growing like everywhere around, beside the lake also, beneath the trees also. And they were fluttering and dancing in the breeze. He's using these words to like paint a very beautiful picture of the daffodils, of that scene where the daffodils are present all around and the wind is blowing over them and they are dancing with the wind. They are swaying left and right with the wind. So to beautify that scenery, so to paint a beautiful picture of the daffodils, he has used this to like justify the fascination, his own fascination. He was fascinated by that scene. So to justify that fascination, he has used it to beautify that scenery, right? Obviously, he has to tell that scenery, why he was so fascinated, because that scenery was so beautiful. And to explain that it was so beautiful, he has made use of these lines, that the daffodils, they were all around, they were present beside the lake, they were present beneath the trees, and they were all swinging and dancing with the wind. So it was a very beautiful scene and it fascinated the poet. All right. So first line tells the location of the daffodils, and it talks about that, they were present everywhere. And then the second line tells about their beauty, how they were dancing with the wind. And so like the poet later on admits that he was fascinated by this scenery, by the beauty of that scenery, right? Anything else? Yes, Harshita.
Ma'am, extract third question number 4.
All right. What is the mood of the poet in the above extracts?
No, ma'am. What reference to the above extract states why Wordsworth can be called as a nature poet?
All right. The sequence of the questions are different. It's fifth question in mind. Fine. So Wordsworth, he can be called a poet, a nature poet. We have just done in critical appreciation. You can pick your answer from romantic elements in the poem and Wordsworth poetic theory, right? If you want, you can form your own answer, picking points from there, right? He can be, you have to justify by giving examples that he's a nature poet because first of all, he said that, you know, this scenery has provided him wealth. So what is the wealth that he's talking about? He's not talking about the money, right? When he says wealth, he means that he is receiving inner peace and happiness. So for him, this happiness, this connection with nature is the real wealth, right? It brings him great joy, and it lifts him from the loneliness to experiencing bliss of solitude, right? So it is the nature that helps him experience bliss of solitude and transform his mood, from being lonely to being happy. So happy that he feels like dancing with the daffodils, right? So,
Yes.
right, these daffodils, they have a magical effect on him. You can add points from like what are the romantic elements present in the poem. All right, so he's
Ma'am,
a
we have to take the points only from this stanza because it is mentioned
yes,
above
because it's
extract.
mentioned now that from the above extract. So yes, that is why I talked about wealth, right? Because he has said now that what wealth the show to me had brought. So you can talk about it that, for him, the actual wealth was the happiness and joy that he received by being in the company of nature. You can make use of this line in such a jocund company. That is, for him, this company was like providing him happiness. It was, providing him actual wealth, right? It was providing him the actual wealth, which was according to him the happiness and joy, and not like the worldly things, right? Okay, anyone else? Yes, Satyam.
Ma'am, extract fourth question number 15.
With
Wordsworth?
reference to the last two lines of the
No,
extracts, this
no, ma'am.
question
No, ma'am.
state the
Wordsworth say that the poetry is the overflow of feeling arising from emotions recollected in tranquility.
all
In
right.
this context, yes.
Fine, fine. So, like he said, he has described poetry as overflow of powerful feelings arising from emotions recollected in tranquility. So, how this particular statement shows the truth? So, obviously, he has experienced these daffodils, right? He had, been there. He had witnessed those daffodils. He had experienced the beauty of it. Now, he did not write the poem at that moment. He later sat down and recalled its memory, and then he kind of uh, felt so happy. He was so overpowered by the happiness that he received from this memory of the daffodils that he felt like dancing with the daffodils, and so he sat down and wrote a poem to portray his happiness and the beauty of the daffodils, right? So you can form your answer from the theme, the second part of the theme, that is impulse of feelings. All right, where he does not write the poem right after experiencing witnessing that scene, right after the experience. No, he had this experience, some years passed by, then he sat down one day, recollected that moment, and then he became so happy that he felt like dancing by just the memory of the daffodils. And then he decided to sit down and write about the beauty of the daffodils and inform the world of it, right? Yes, Madhya.
Ma'am, I want to ask, ma'am, extract third question number second. Ma'am,
Read
third
out the
part.
question, please. The sequence is like
Uh,
disturbed.
yes, ma'am. What is meant by the Jochen company? What Jochen company is poet referring to?
That
Why
is
does
so
the poet
easy.
find
The
it so?
jocund means very happy, cheerful, joyful. And what is the company? It is the company of the waves and daffodils dancing, having a competition between them. And what does the poet find it? Why does the poet find it jocund? Why does he feel so happy? Right? What is so happy about the scenery? Obviously, the waves and the daffodils are dancing and they are having a competition between themselves. And the poet is standing and enjoying the competition and experiencing pleasure out of that scenery, right? It's easy. You can write it on your own. Yes, Harshita.
I want to ask question from extract second, question number 5.
Please read out the question also.
What is the Milky Way? Why it is referred to in the extract?
Milky Way is the galaxy. You know that. You must be knowing, right? You're studying
Yes, ma'am.
geography as well. You know that Milky Way is the galaxy in which our planet Earth is present, right? And the poet has made reference to Milky Way to refer to the night sky in which uh, innumerous stars shine, right? There are innumerous stars that shine at night. So to refer to that night sky, he has made, he's called out this name, right? Milky Way, he has used this term, right? To just emphasize on the uncountability of the daffodils, right? That they are uncountable in nature. To emphasize that fact, he is referring to all the stars of the Milky Way, not just the sky that is visible to us, but of the stars of the entire galaxy, right? So just to emphasize the that the daffodils are so many in number, they are uncountable. The poet has used the term Milky Way, right? Pratik, yes, ask your question.
Ma'am, in extract 2, question number 2, it is written that briefly describe the musical quality of the extract. Ma'am, what does we mean by musical quality?
We did this question yesterday. Actually, it talks about, you have to talk about the rhyming scheme of the uh, stanza of that particular extract, the stanza that has been given in this extract. So you will say that the rhyming scheme of this particular stanza, like the other stanzas, is A, B, A, B, C, C. And then you will talk about in detail, because that particular stanza has been asked, right? So obviously you cannot just tell the rhyming scheme and leave, you will have to elaborate it. So you will say that the rhyming words shine and line have been used to make the first and the third line rhyme with each other. And the words way and bay have been used to make the second and the fourth line rhyme with each other. And then the stanza ends with a rhyming couplet with glance and dance as the rhyming words, right? You can explain it in this way. That is the musical quality. Rhythm and rhyme refers to the musical quality of the poem. Alankrita, switch on your video. All right. Ananya?
Ma'am, the third track, first question, how did the daffodils outdo the waves?
You can explain that the daffodils and the waves were in a way, how the author says, author feels that they were having a competition between the two, and it was like a dance competition. Both of the waves as well as the daffodils were dancing, and the performance of the daffodils was better, or more fascinating than that of the waves, according to the poet, right? It was more fascinating than the performance of the waves according to the poet. All right. Anything else, Ananya? All right. Yes, Mimansha.
Ma'am, I want to ask in extract 1, question number 5, it is the second part. It is written that how many daffodils do you think the poet saw? And the third part states that give a reason for your answer. So, ma'am, what will be the reason that poet saw 1,000 daffodils at the time?
All right, all right. So the lines are given that when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. So now he is suddenly seeing a crowd of daffodils, right? So because you have to talk about these two particular lines, we will talk in reference to these lines only. So he's saying that he has seen like a bunch of daffodils. There were lots of daffodils. He could see lots of them in just one glance, right? He is looking at a crowd. That is, there were lots of daffodils in front of his eyes going everywhere about. Give a reason for your answer. Then you can, for giving the reason, you can make use of the other lines and say that because later in the poem he says that the daffodils stretched in a never-ending line. So there were lots of daffodils, and he could see many of them in just at just once, right? All right, fine, you can explain this much, that is enough, because it's given in 3 parts now as it is. So like each part will carry 1 mark, right? So figure of speech you'll already have mentioned. Then how many daffodils? So the poet saw innumerous daffodils, right? There were lots of daffodils growing everywhere as far as the poet could see. And then what is the reason? The reason is that later on he explains that they stretched in a never-ending line, right? So you can no need to give like too much of elaboration. This much will be fine. Yes, Ishan.
Ma'am, I want to ask extract 2, question number 4. State how the technique of using exaggeration highlights the poetic effect in the extract.
Heightens, not highlightens, heightens the poetic effect. All right. So first of all, you will have to mention where the exaggeration has been used, right? So exaggeration has been used in the line 10,000 I
10,000.
saw at a glance, right? So he has used this for the sake of emphasis. Like, then you will have to elaborate it that he has used it to emphasize the large number of daffodils. He throughout the poem, what is he trying to do? He is trying to bring out the beauty of the daffodils, to express his fascination for the beauty of these daffodils, right? So with the help of this exaggeration, he is bringing out that they were so many in number that the sight became very pleasant for him, right? He said that they were in a never-ending line, and they were so many in numbers that he could see 10,000s of daffodils in just one glance, and so he was like fascinated by it, right? So throughout the poem, he is expressing the beauty, the fascination, by the beauty of the daffodils. So this exaggeration helps him in doing that, in emphasizing that the fact that the daffodils were innumerous, right? It helps the poet to emphasize the fact that there were lots of daffodils, they were innumerous, right? Okay, Kinjal?
Ma'am, extract 4th last question.
Read out the question.
Wordsworth says that poverty is the overflow of feeling arising from emotion.
This also we did yesterday. What happened? You didn't note down yesterday? Wordsworth says that poetry is the overflow of feelings arising from emotions recollected in tranquility. I explained this line, right? What does this mean? That when you have experienced something, now after the moment has passed, you sit and recollect that moment, think about it, and then you become like quite emotional, and then like the poet, you have to make this statement get related to the poem. So the poet also experienced that incident where he saw the daffodils and he enjoyed the scenery, he was fascinated by it. Now some years have passed by, he is sitting in a thoughtful mood, right, and thinking about the daffodils now, and he remember the memory is so fresh in his mind that he becomes all emotional, and he feels that he is actually experiencing it once again, right? He becomes so happy that he feels that his heart is dancing with those daffodils, right? So the poet sits to write down his feelings, and he expresses it in the form of a poem. Right. So the poet is saying that poetry is nothing but overflow of powerful emotions, right? Powerful feelings. So this has been like brought out. The poem shows the truth of the statement. Why? Because the poet sat down to express the beauty of the daffodils long after the actual experience. One day he just sat down and thought about those daffodils, and the memory, he felt that the memory was so fresh in his mind that he felt as if his heart was dancing with those daffodils. He was experiencing it once again, and he expressed the beauty of the daffodils and his fascination regarding those daffodils in the form of a poem, right? Riddhi, switch on your video. Ishani, your query got answered? All right. Anything else that you want to discuss? No problems? All right. I'll just want you, any one of you, to answer one of questions that I'll ask. Explain the transition from the poet's pensive mood to his heart filled with joy. This is extract 4, question 3 in my book. The sequence is different, so it might be some other part of extract 4. Explain the transition from poet's pensive mood to his heart filled with joy. Who will answer this? Shreyansh, will you be able to do it? Please don't leave the class and go. Just tell me if you will be able to answer or not. You people have a habit of running away from the class. All right, no problem. All right. Satyam wants to try. Reply, Satyam.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, in the beginning, the poet wanders lonely, and he wanders like a. He said that he wanders like a cloud, but
No,
he.
no, child. You don't have to talk about wandering like a cloud, because it is asking that transition from poet's pensive mood. The poet's mood was pensive in the last stanza itself, right? So you just have to restrict yourself in the last stanza, that he's sitting in a pensive mood and then suddenly his heart gets filled with joy. So what was the thing that made him like change his mood from
And
pensive?
the sight of large number of daffodils were the reasons
This is
for.
where you people make mistakes. The sight of daffodils made him happy, or the memory.
No, yes, ma'am. The memory.
The memory, you miss out the key terms. You people have this tendency of missing out the key terms. So now explain it, Satyam.
And the memory of the daffodils, it made the nay, it
All
made
right,
the
all
poet
right, fine. Good
feels
that you
very
tried
happy.
at least. Good that you tried. Kinjal, answer.
Ma'am, when the poet is lonely and in pensive mood, he lies on his couch. But suddenly, when the memory of dancing daffodils flashes in his imagination, he feels that he is in the with them only. His loneliness, sadness, and melancholic mood goes vanishes.
The memory is so fresh in his mind that he feels as if he is actually experiencing it once again, and he feels that like happiness fills his heart, and he feels as if his heart is dancing with the daffodils, right? So please don't miss out the key terms, right? You people have this habit of missing out the important words, right? The memory word is very important over here because the poem is all about it. That not just the scenery, but the healing power of nature is so strong that even the memory of the daffodils brings so much happiness to the poet, right? So it's very important. Don't miss it out. You people want to ask something? You are raising hands. Yes, Mehak, you want to ask something? Unmute, Mehak. Mehak, unmute yourself. Is there some, she can't unmute, I think. All right. Yes, Ishani.
Ma'am, I want to ask the question that what influence nature can have on over an individual's mind.
What effect can nature have on individuals' mind? This is like the discussion of the theme, that is healing power of nature or influence of nature on man, right? So you have to elaborate the theme, influence of nature on man, over here in this question, right? You can do that, or you want me? All right, fine. Yes, Ananya.
Ma'am, I wanted to answer.
Yes, ask.
No, ma'am, I wanted to answer your question.
All right, answer. Fine.
Ma'am, we can also say that the poet says that whenever he lies down on his couch in a pensive mood, the memory of the daffodil flashes in his mind and brings him the happiness, and his loneliness is taken away from the from him when the images of daffodil fills his heart with pleasure.
And his loneliness changes into bliss of solitude. Very nice answer, Ananya. Add this, that and his loneliness changes into bliss of solitude. Very good. Yes, Ishanvi.
Ma'am, I wanted to confirm one answer. Ma'am, the last question. Ma'am,
Yes.
I've written one answer. I wanted to just confirm it.
All
I've
right.
written that the above statement is true as the poet has observed the beauty of daffodils very closely and has written this poem long after he experienced it. After many years also, when the poet is all alone, the memory of the daffodils was enough to change his mood and make his spirits high. Ma'am, is this also correct?
Yes, fine, it's correct. But don't write after so many years also. Write it as even after so many years.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay. All right. Fine. We'll end it over here. I think we are done with the discussion. Fine.